The Battle of Kings Mountain, October 7th, 1780. If you look at a map of the United States today, you can see 50 states with their boundaries, known as state lines. But during the American Revolution, several of those same states had different boundaries. For instance, the Battle of Kings Mountain took place in North Carolina, but today that area is part of South Carolina. The Battle of Kings Mountain is also one of the few in which no official soldiers fought. Though a military officer led the British side, ordinary loyalists battled ordinary patriots. Before we dive into this stunning clash, let's quickly recap. At this point in the war, British General Clinton turned his attention to the southern colonies. However, hearing that a French fleet was sailing for New York, Clinton had marched north with 4,000 British soldiers. General Cornwallis was left in charge of the southern campaign. After the British took control of Charleston, South Carolina, and slaughtered the Patriots at the Battle of Camden, Cornwallis felt confident about his mission to conquer the South. It was now autumn of 1780, and Cornwallis wanted to move deeper into the Carolinas and control more southern territory. Cornwallis enlisted the aid of British Major Patrick Ferguson. Ferguson was a scorched earth type of leader. He showed little mercy for his enemies. Cornwallis tasked Ferguson with rallying loyalists and convincing them to protect the Redcoats as they moved into North Carolina. Ferguson sent a warning ahead for the Patriots living in this region. It wasn't subtle. The Patriots must desist from their opposition to British arms, he said, or Ferguson would march over the mountains, hang their leaders, and lay waste their country with fire and sword. Quite a threat. And it was precisely the wrong thing to say to rugged, backcountry men who loved their families, their freedom, and their way of life. Known as the Over-Mountain Men, these Carolina colonists weren't about to bow down to some English guy in a fancy uniform. To show Ferguson who was boss, men arrived from 5 different southern states to join the Over-Mountain Men, including 400 militiamen from Virginia under the command of Colonel William Campbell. Campbell's combined Patriot colonial force totaled about 1,400 men. Before the battle, a minister named Samuel Doak addressed them. "The enemy is marching hither to destroy your homes," Reverend Doak said. "Go forth, then, in the strength of your manhood, to the aid of your brethren, the defense of your liberty, and protection of your homes." In early October, the Patriots gathered at a place called the Cowpens. They chose Campbell as their overall leader and devised a plan. Moving quickly, they would spring a surprise attack on Ferguson's 1,100-man Loyalist force. However, the Patriots didn't have enough horses, so they chose 900 of their best sharpshooters who could ride all night and still have the energy to fight Ferguson. But while on that ride, 2 Patriots were captured by Ferguson's scouts. Even worse, the prisoners spilled the secret plan. The element of surprise was ruined. Ferguson decided to get more protection. He started heading for Cornwallis's main army, but soon realized he wouldn't reach it before the Patriots arrived. His Loyalist force would need to make a stand on a 60-foot-high hill. It was called Kings Mountain. On October 7th, after riding all night, the Patriot fighters arrived at Kings Mountain around noon. They used a wooded area as camouflage to disguise their arrival. Campbell split the force in 2, about 440 men placed on one side of Kings Mountain, another 470 on the other. Campbell also broke the 2 groups into multiple columns and ordered them to spread out and surround the mountain. Around 3 p.m., Campbell's men had climbed about a quarter of the way up the mountain, unheard and unseen, when suddenly some Loyalists on picket duty, like guard duty, spotted them. The Loyalists sounded the alarm. The Patriots opened fire. From all sides, gun smoke billowed into the autumn air. But the guns sounded different. Generally, rifles were not used in battles. But the Over-Mountain Men, as unofficial soldiers, only had the weapons they kept for hunting and feeding their families. The Loyalists were firing muskets. These 2 weapons were significantly different. A rifle is highly accurate. A good rifleman, and these rugged men were very good, could hit a target from 200 to 300 yards away. But rifles are difficult to reload quickly. Even a very good rifleman could only fire about 1 shot per minute. A musket isn't as accurate at long distances, but it's easier to reload. A musket could fire about 3 times a minute. When the gunfight broke out, Ferguson assumed the attack was coming from only one side of the mountain. Unaware that other Patriot columns were approaching, Ferguson positioned his men incorrectly. Campbell's multiple columns began attacking like arrows rather than heavy clubs. This tactic forced the Loyalists to fire across spread-out targets, weakening their power. Even worse for the British side, these rugged mountain men knew how to handle the hill's terrain. And when one of Campbell's columns got bogged down in a marshy area, another column shifted into position and blocked the Loyalists' only escape route. But the Loyalists had one distinct advantage. The British Army had equipped them with bayonets. Now Ferguson saw an opportunity to drive the Patriots off the hill. Imagine climbing this hill under gunfire, almost reaching the top, when suddenly a Loyalist force rushes over the crest and charges straight at you with a spiked fence of glistening steel blades. Ferguson's charge worked. The Patriots broke into a retreat and ran down the hill. But once they reached the bottom, they used the wooden area for cover and regrouped. And now a different Patriot column was approaching the hill's crest from another side. They aimed their rifles at the Loyalists. Ferguson ordered another bayonet charge, but the Patriots held most of their position this time. Campbell's multiple columns continued to work like a well-oiled machine. The Patriots attacked the Loyalists from various positions. As the Patriots surged forward, hand-to-hand combat broke out across the mountain. These over-mountain men were determined to prove that nobody ruled over their lives, especially not some king living far away in England. Ferguson was now surrounded. He drew his men into a concentrated defensive position. The Patriots continued firing as they moved closer and closer. How did Ferguson respond? He ordered another bayonet charge. This time, it provided only a minor delay. The Patriots continued pushing the Loyalists into a smaller and smaller ring of defense. Ferguson realized the end was coming. He now had 3 choices: make a last stand, attack to escape, or surrender. Ferguson ordered several men to mount their horses and charge into the Patriots, but their charge proved futile. The riflemen picked off the Loyalists like sitting ducks. The Loyalists were now running low on ammunition. To his credit, Ferguson's last act was to help his men escape. He attempted to cut a path through the Patriots, but multiple bullets cut him down. Ferguson died from his injuries. At that point, Ferguson's second-in-command raised the white flag of surrender. The Patriots had won the Battle of Kings Mountain. They lost 28 men killed in action with another 62 wounded. But 290 Loyalists were killed in action. Another 163 were wounded, and 668 were captured. It was a resounding defeat. While the British believed the South would offer them widespread support, the Battle of Kings Mountain revealed the region's passion for freedom and self-determination. They wanted American independence, and they were clearly willing to die fighting for it. News of this victory lifted the spirits of patriots who wondered whether Britain's Southern campaign would crush the movement. Now it was clear. The Revolutionary War was far from over. Who fought? The over-mountain men knew how to live off the land and travel lightly. They didn't carry much with them on their hunting and gathering forays. No tents, no cooking pans, and very little extra clothing. They foraged for food and slept under the stars. Cavalry Commander Light Horse Harry Lee, among General Washington's best officers, called them a race of handy men who are familiar with the use of force and rifle, stout, active, patient under privation, and brave. Privation is when essential things like food and clothing are lacking. Living in the backcountry of the Carolinas and the Appalachian Mountains, the over-mountain men didn't immediately take up arms for the Patriot cause. But as the battles progressed and the British launched their Southern campaign, the over-mountain men were necessarily drawn into the war to protect their families, especially after Major Ferguson issued his threats. Going into the Battle of Kings Mountain, these men had no official authorization from the Continental Army. That's why they had to use their own rifles and horses. Some of these men traveled more than 300 miles to fight Ferguson, riding up mountains and down valleys, passing through the present-day states of Tennessee, Virginia, North Carolina, and South Carolina. Today, the National Park Service maintains an Over Mountain Victory National Historic Trail. It includes almost 90 miles that you can walk, plus a commemorative motor route with trail markers that tell stories about these rugged individuals who made Revolutionary War history.